On cul-de-sacs, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb in Real Estate Show with Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and James DeFreitas, the son. For the next hour, call in with your questions about gardening, growing your favorite veggies, and growing your profits in real estate. Call them anytime at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now, your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And good morning or good evening, depending on when you're listening. We're glad that you're with us. I am Stan DeFreitas, the dad, and you are?
And of course, I'm James DeFreitas, the son. And of course, each and every week we are here. We talk about gardening. We talk a little bit about real estate. And then once in a while, we'll throw in whatever is on our brain. So it's a little bit eclectic. Not nearly as eclectic as the show that's coming on after us. But of course, he's also very interesting too. And of course, that's Dr. Bill. If you have a gardening question, go to askmrgreenthumb.com. That's AskMrGreenthumb.com and click on the Ask button. You can do it right from your cell phone. And I encourage you to do that because knowledge is power. And, if you have a question about a plant ID, if you have a question about a bug ID, you can submit it. And we're pretty good at making sure that we get those questions answered for you. And the price is great. It's FREE. So that's kind of how I like to begin the shows. And
Somebody did send me a picture the other day, a balsam pear, and it has kind of a lacy leaf.
Balsam pear.
And it kind of has like a putrid odor to it. And I don't know how to describe that any more than you'll know the smell. It has like an orange little fruit that gets about like this. Sometimes
and it's toxic, right?
It can be toxic. Though some people around the world seem to use some of it somehow. And I'm not going to recommend that because it's on the poison control chart.
Yeah, Google that, people.
But I was going to say, everything you say is bad. There's somebody out there who figures out something that's good.
Right.
So I mentioned that. I did identify the sample that was sent to me, a picture. Also, people sent me pictures of their trees. And I see holes, I see sap, I see sawdust. And when I see that, then I can identify it. I do like to see the pictures.
Sure.
Because you may not notice what I'm going to notice, or James is going to notice when we're out there looking at your tree. If I can see the photo, we're doing that for free. If I come out and do a consult, well, obviously I have to charge because I can't, we all know with gas prices these days, I can't afford to drive all over Timbuktu. There's an expense. And then, of course, time is money. We do help with that. And
if people want to get a hold of you specifically to send you a text, or if they want to call you, how would they do that?
They can text me at 727- 423-4794. I had to think about it for a second. Yeah. 727-423-4794. And you can text me a picture. It's my cell.
So they get you right away directly to Mr. GT, the brain, the mind, that will be able to help identify their problem.
So we are here for that. Also, I was going to mention the other day, I was at one of my favorite sandwich shops. And that was the Pickle. It was the Pickles Plus.
Pickles Plus.
And I was there, and I noticed they had some olive trees. So I imposed on the waitress, and I said, first I asked the gal at the front, and she goes, no, I don't know. So I said, well, I'm not going to ask you. So I asked the other person, I said, could I have a little tiny sample of your olive tree? And she said, well, I planted them, so yes, I'm going to let you do it. She gave me a little sample, and I took them, and I use some indole-butyric acid. I'm taking some cuttings. I want to see if I can root them because I like the idea. I think of olive trees. We think of going back to the Greek. We think of going back to civilization. But I just thought it would be neat if I could take these cuttings and we actually did a little video. I don't know if we're going to use that one or not because Peg was kind of moving the camera a little bit. Wasn't perfect on its execution.
Well, one of the things that I have advocated for years is that people are very concerned about video production quality. And the most important thing in any video especially videos that you're going to post on YouTube, is the information. If the production quality and the information is great, That's great, and I encourage that. But I would say to you on that particular topic that you would be best suited to post it and not care too much about the video quality in relation to its production value, because people are not, they'll ignore that.
Yep.
You know, I mean, to a point. Now, I mean, if you're doing 360s and you make people feel like they're having vertigo, then I'm going to tell you that there is a point of cutoff for that. But I would say majority of the time, I mean, I watch a guy that does a tiling video, and I just, because I think it's interesting, and I'm not even going to mention his name, but his videos are pretty terrible in terms of their production quality, but the information is fantastic. So if you have some information out there that actually is worthy of sharing with other people, then I'm going to strongly encourage you to go ahead and post that information anyway, regardless of its production value. Now, one of the things I'd like to mention is, again, one of the components that we do here on the show is we not only talk about plants and horticulture, we also talk about real estate. And of course, I run a company called Dream It Real Estate. And of course, you can go to my website at dreamitrealestate.co. That's dreamitrealestate.co, and you can learn more about what I do. And so one of the things I find interesting with regards to real estate is of course, I get every month I get the real estate magazine. And on the real estate magazine, they have a talk to an attorney section. And I find that a pretty interesting area because you get to learn from other people's actual experiences that they've encountered with the law. So one of the questions this week is, it says, I'm a broker, and it says, I'm the broker for a real estate company. Someone from the Department of Business and Professional Regulation informed me that they will be coming by to inspect my office and my files. Are they allowed to do so with, and it's pretty clear. Of course they are. Section 475.5016 says under the Florida statutes that the DPPR is allowed to do this. So yeah, if you're going to have a brokerage, they have a right to come in and inspect. So just be aware. Now, it's probably not going to happen that often, but it does happen from time to time. So, these are kind of questions that are kind of geared towards real estate professionals. So the general lay people may not have as much interest, but if you're in the real estate business, and again, if you live in Florida, you're given a birth certificate and a real estate license at birth. So you probably...
It's not quite that easy.
Oh, it's not that... You throw a rock, you're going to hit 37 real estate agents. So I don't know. There's a ton of... And I'm not advocating for throwing a rock.
But that's a good point, though. A lot of people are leaving the industry. Why? Because we've had somewhat of a downturn for some of them.
Right, and we've got inflationary times. We've also got interest rates that continue to rise. Although my understanding is that they're going to be pausing some of the interest rates going forward. So that should, if nothing else, should slow some things down. So that's a very good thing. We like that. But one of the things that, I always like to remind people in the real estate game that, there are rules to this. It's one of the reasons that we have contracts. And by the way, if you are a seller or a buyer, you also have rules that you have to play by. You don't get to just act out of emotion. It's one of the reasons that we all sign contracts is because we want to make sure that everyone has an expectation of how behavior will be conducted throughout a transaction. And when people violate that behavior, that is called a breach. And again, I'm not trying to get legal, but I am trying to explain.
Important.
But, we as real estate professionals, we are of the mindset of trying to make sure that we keep people on the straight and narrow as best we understand it. That doesn't mean that we're practicing law. It just means that we're operating in the capacity with which we're allowed to under our legal framework.
Well, that's the reason you sign things. If you don't sign things, then it's verbal, and that's not legal. Mm-hmm. As Judge Judy likes to point out, we'll use her as our legal expert. If it's not in the contract, if you didn't sign it, it didn't happen.
Right. So here's an excellent question for you.
All right.
If a buyer submits an offer using a Florida Realtors FAR contract, is the buyer obligated to give the seller the full length of time described in Section 3, time for acceptance of offer and counters offers, even if they change their minds about wanting to enter a contract?
Whatever the law says, whatever the contract says, that time usually has to be honored if somebody has signed something.
And that's why I asked this question, because the answer is no.
No, okay.
If you read the language in Section 3, it provides that the offer will be deemed withdrawn after the deadline expires. So again, to your knowledge, yes, you follow the contract. And in Section 3, you have to follow what it says.
Yeah, and the dates are usually part of the contract.
But then it goes on to, it's a very lawyerly answer here. It goes on to say, however, and however is one of these connectors that kind of says, but there's this other thing out here. However, as a general matter of contract law, the buyer is also allowed to notify the seller that they have elected to withdraw the offer at any time before the seller accepts. So in other words, if the seller hasn't gotten back to a buyer, the buyer can, at any time prior to that, can say, I'm out.
When that happens.
And that happens.
Sure.
Yeah. So,
well, that's the reason we check with lawyers too. Before we don't try to make the law, we just get other people to help interpret it for us.
Correct. And if we don't know, we ask. And
Right.
in every real estate transaction, there's always a questionable portion that I generally will ask somebody, a lawyer who, well, at least he said he was a lawyer, that has some knowledge on the subject matter, and that way we're not flying blind. Flying blind is bad. So that's something I encourage people to always have, whoever your real estate agent is. I mean, if you didn't pick me, how could you not pick me? If you didn't,
you should.
You should. But if you don't pick me, make sure that you still have good representation, and make sure that at the end of the day that, that you have as much information as you can in the scenario. One of the worst things to ever be in is to have a situation where you think you're in the right, you advocate for being for a position, and then you find out later you had no right to even ask that particular point of view. So don't be that guy.
That's the reason you ought to pick James, is because like and trust him. That'd be the number one. And he's going to be honest. He's maybe not the biggest, not the number one, not the grandest all, but he'll help do the right job for you. Stay with us as the Plant Talk continues here on AM 860, The Answer.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at askmrgreenthumb.com.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786. On the web at staffordtreesvc.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
At Dream It Real Estate, we're a different kind of real estate company. We embolden our clients to dream their biggest dreams and partner with us to make those dreams come true. Our emphasis is on team building with clients who become friends for a lifetime. For more information, please go to dreamitrealestate.co or call or text James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127. Dream It Real Estate is always encouraging our clients to dream big with us today. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Give him a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we're here to help you with your plants, trees, and real estate. James, of course, is a broker of Dream It Real Estate. And if you need help there, he will certainly help you. I'm also an agent. And
Top agent.
the number one.
Number one agent.
I should advertise it as I am your top leading number one star, gold star.
Super duper producer.
That's right. There is, I could say, the top.
elite list.
We could come up with a whole list of like 1,000 adjectives and just go, see?
Well, we're going to have our award ceremony at some point this year. And of course, it's just you and me attending, but I'm going to bring a megaphone and make sure you realize that when I put a gold star on your nose, you're going to feel very proud about working at Dream It Real Estate.
But all the other people at the luncheon at Burger King are going to probably be upset with us. So I don't know.
Well, I don't know if I was going to go that
high.
I mean, come on.
You're going to give me a Whopper and a large fry.
That's right.
Hey, is the award-winning, you put a crown on my head as well?
You will definitely get a free crown.
Paper crown. All right. Well, I know where this is going. I don't feel like I don't get the love from the royalty here.
So speaking of gardening, one of the things that I have noticed is since I was watering your plants the other day is your tomatoes are starting to look a little bit beat up.
They're getting some fungus. Fungus is getting to them. You know, fungi is around us all the time, and probably life wouldn't have started without fungi. I don't know why God decided to make fungi such an important thing, but it's its own area, its own species. It starts breaking things down. Now, we eat fungi, of course, mushrooms. There's a list of mushrooms that are good for you, but fungi also can kill trees. They can kill plants. I was talking on the radio years and years ago, and a lady called me up and she said, well, I'm a nurse. And she says, I think you've made all this stuff up about this blight. I said, well, blights and pestilence, go back and read the Old Testament, is full of blights and pestilence. It's not something new. Man has been fighting with fungi and bacteria and insects forever. So it's not a brand new happening. And she was like, And I said, and if you're a nurse, you ought to know that because you're dealing with bacteria and you're worried about fungi and other problems that can occur to people that can kill them. Mm-hmm. And so I just thought that was, an odd call, but I'm not sure. I love my nurses. Most of them are just great. I salute you all. I loved my nurses at Tampa General Hospital and also at Countryside Meese. They did a wonderful job, and I love every one of them. They were helpful in keeping me alive, and so I salute you.
Exactly. And I might add, too, just as a PSA notification, is if your spirit is internally grumpy and your glass half empty kind of person, that really translate. And I mean, the nurses will still do a great job, but I still want you to, I would encourage that if you're in the hospital setting, that if you can try to maintain some positivity on some aspect, it'll help your outcome. It will make things go better for you. The nurses will be more attentive to the ones that they like. I'm just going to say it because I think that's true. I have no factual basis on that. I mean, I'm sure I'd have some nurse group going, that's not true. Even if they're not nice, we still treat them well. Well, of course you do. But the reality of it is the outcomes are always better, in my opinion, when you're positive and that you're trying to look for a way to get better and that you are doing what they tell you to do. Because the number one reason that a lot of elderly people don't do as well when they go have a major surgery or have a major complication, break a hip, have a fall, is they don't listen and they start doing, well, I know what I'm doing, and they don't want to hear it from some 30-year-old kid or 25-year-old kid fresh out of nursing school about what they ought to do. And I'm here to tell you, you need to listen because they've had training and they know and they have your best interest at mind. I would say most of them do anyway. There's always some bad apples in every bunch, but the point of it is that you want to try to listen to what they're telling you and not put up a big fight over it.
Exactly.
In terms of planting in horticulture, we're starting to get into what we call the hot months. What are, in terms of edibles, if I want to eat something in my garden, what could I be planting in terms of something that might do okay in this massive summer heat?
Well, I'm going to say as it gets really hot, the little cherry tomatoes, the little patio type tomatoes tend to keep producing even when it gets hot. The real big varieties, your big boys, your better boy, all those bigger varieties will quit producing, they'll flower, they'll grow, but they'll quit putting fruit on as it gets too hot during the evening temperature. So we need to go, maybe you can go, little cherries are nice. They're good for salads. They're good for hand eating. You probably, now I know up north, their big time is going to be May, June, July, summertime. We have to almost think of over-summering here, as opposed to up north, you have to think of overwintering. How do I get through something? Now, collard greens will grow well. Some of the lettuce type things, if you put them in the shade, they'll do better. Any of the leafy veggies. I'm still growing some broccoli right now that are starting to form some heads. One of them started to form a funky looking head, and I went ahead and cut it and used it. But
why was it forming a funky looking head?
I think it just was so hot and got probably a little dry one day, and it starts to change. It likes broccoli, that whole crucifer group. We call them crucifers, and that's broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts. They all like it a little bit on the cooler side.
Why do they call it a crucifer?
Because of the way you look at the way the seed looks and the way the flower looks. It's like a cross.
Oh, really? So it does go back to a biblical reference.
Sense.
Okay.
Exactly.
I was just curious if it was related because I wasn't sure if what you were saying was the exact word that I was thinking.
Yes. So no, it goes back to that. And I will say that whole family is probably one of the healthier families for you as far as vitamin C's and all the group of vitamin B's. It has a lot of good elements to it and sulfur to it. And sulfur is important. You go, well, sulfur. Sulfur is important in your landscape. There's NP and K, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And then there's calcium, sulfur, and magnesium are the next top three that are used by your plant. You and I also need calcium. We need it for our bones. We need it for our teeth. I was talking to my brother the other day who's going through an unfortunate problem where he may be getting into some brittle bone problems. And if that's the case, they're going to give him an injection of calcium that will help with that particular problem.
I didn't know there was anything they could do for brittle bones.
Well, there's some things they can try that seem to help for some people. Not everything, you can apply everything to every plant and some things work good, but there's also a chance of fungi, bacteria, insects, and other things that can be a problem. And same thing for people. We have bacteria and fungi and viruses that cause us trouble.
Sure, absolutely. With that noise, we're going to go pay some bills, so don't change your dial and take it away.
You stay with us as the plant talk and real estate talk continues here on 860 The Answer.
Want to talk real estate? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenthumb.com. An air conditioner? Keep your home's AC running smoothly all year long with Easy Breezy AC. With thousands of active commercial and residential customers, Easy Breezy AC is Tampa Bay's most trusted HVAC company. Easy Breezy AC cares about those in need. Donate 2 cans of food and receive $20 off a $79 service call. Go to EasyBreezyAC.com and use promo code GreenThumb for an additional $10 off your service call. Call 727-856-HVAC. Life's hard. Comfort's not. At Dream It Real Estate, we're a different kind of real estate company. We embolden our clients to dream their biggest dreams and partner with us to make those dreams come true. Our emphasis is on team building with clients who become friends for a lifetime. For more information, please go to dreamitrealestate.co or call or text James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127. Dream It Real Estate is always encouraging our clients to dream big with us today. Did you know that Stan DeFreitas, Mr. Green Thumb, can come to your house and examine your plants, trees, and palms? His knowledge can help you become the envy of your neighborhood with lush, green, healthy trees that don't just live, but thrive. Palms and oak trees are part of what makes Florida a beautiful place to live. But they get diseases and are often cut down. For ways to save your trees, call or text Stan today at 727-423-4794 or go online to AskMrGreenthumb.com. That's AskMrGreenthumb.com. Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Green Thumb and Real Estate Show. Got questions about perennial flowers? What about issues with closing on your newest property? Give them a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
And we talk about plants and trees and shrubs and also real estate. Why? There's a tie-in because James, my son, runs Dream Real Estate. He's the broker of record. And I am an agent there. I am in the top 1% of all of his agents. I'm the very star agent. I get the gold certificate that says I'm
Top
the
1% of the 1%.
I'm the one of one. So
Yeah.
I am the super diamond direct agent. Elite. And you couldn't even believe the number of platitudes I get because I am the number one agent in your organization.
Number one.
And we are helping people. We just closed on a condo. We got another condo maybe coming up. We got some homes to look at. Why should you pick us? Because you know us, you like us. Hey, that gardening guy, his son's pretty smart, and they sound like they're honest. And why would we want to work with them? Well, or I'm an agent. I'm tired. I've been to 5 different other agencies. They all left me in the corner. I mean, that's the attitude I got too. When you went to some of the great big agencies, and you and I have been with some of them, and I won't mention them, but they all like, come on in. Why didn't you say so? Come on in. It kind of like, at the Wizard of Oz, where he's telling Dorothy to come in. But then you get in there and you go, we love the 1% here that sell.
Right.
And those, you want to see these guys here? These are the ones who are the top. What about me?
Right.
Well, you can come in and pay each month. We're not that worried about you.
Right. The real estate and what you're talking about there is the real estate model is a little backwards. The folks that need the least amount of help are the ones that get all of the accolades and all the help.
Right.
I almost liken it to when you're a young person and you're trying to establish credit. The time that you needed the help was then, and by the time that you're my age, I can't go to the mailbox without somebody trying to offer me credit that's going to get put right through the shredder, because now I don't need your credit because I'll just buy it cash, and I don't need anything that you're offering. But when I was a young man, I needed help, and nobody was there to help me. And the same thing could be said for most of the major brokerages that are available in Pinellas County and elsewhere. There's all this great help for people that don't need it because they're already making tons of money at the top. And the people that really need the help are the new agents who just spent all this money with their licensing, education, and their time. And most of them are wondering, why did I make this choice? Again, you have to realize in every city, every county, it's generally, there's only 1% of the people that are actually making a living. The rest are sort of starving. And, and it's pretty obvious. We've been at many different brokerages, and I can tell you, they all have their pluses and minuses. One of the things that happens, and this is especially if you're interested in hearing about what a real estate agent goes through, is after they get their license, they're so excited, and then they realize that there's even more money they have to pay out to making sure that they're part of the MLS service, which in our area, to be part of the MLS service, you also have to be part of the NAR and the FAR, so National Association of Realtors and Florida Association of Realtors. So you've got to be part of that club. And it's all, again, being part of the club. And being part of that club comes with its own host of responsibilities. There's all kinds of ethics that you have to follow as part of being part of MLS service. And so it comes with that. And if your brokerage is a part of MLS service and a part of those things, then you must be too. That's the rule. So you don't get out of it. You can opt out of it if you want to be a sole entity, but then you wouldn't have access to the privileges that are provided by being part of that service. So
and you need it.
So you need it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make a lot of sense. You really couldn't be a successful person in the business without that service. So the other thing I would suggest too is, and I'll give you a for instance. You've paid all this money, and then all of a sudden you go in, you have this conversation with some, real estate recruiter at this, big box firm, and they'll say to you, well, to start, it'll be a $395 initiation fee or a $500 fee for you to sign up with us. So now you're paying to be part of their club. And they always have these cute little well, that comes with business cards, and it's
Yeah.
like, really? It comes with business cards, huh? You still can't help but feel like it's a scam because it is. It feels like it anyway. Anyway, so you do that, and then they're like, well, and by the way, it'll be $200 a month to be part of our club. So that now there's this monthly. So now we need your credit card so that we can swipe that once a month. And again, that fee varies from brokerage to brokerage, but typically there's a fee, and then they want a little piece of the pie at the end of what you do, and and then there's usually a cap out rate as to what you have to sell for a year, and then look at that, it goes to 100%. See how good that is for you. And by the way, when people start out a conversation of how great it is for you, you ought to make sure that you still have all 10 fingers left on your hands, because generally there's a scam coming somewhere. I'm putting it out there because everyone thinks that being a real estate agent is so super easy. And there are so many pitfalls and trials and tribulations that they go through that they not only do they earn their money, which they do, they absolutely do. They take on all of the uncomfortable things that most people don't want to deal with. They make all the phone calls, they handle the contracts, they make sure that everything is moving smoothly and progressing exactly the way it needs to when it needs to. Now, if you're, working part-time, or you're and you have free time, then maybe could you do some of this on your own? Sure, you could. And as long as the process is simple and doesn't become legally complicated, you'll be fine. But the moment it becomes complicated, the moment you don't have the right disclosures or the right forms, and because then what you're doing is you're a fish out of water. And fish out of water sometimes have problems.
Almost always.
Yeah. So again, I'm not suggesting for a minute that people can't do a for sale by owner. They can, but just remember that if you make a mistake contractually, that the ignorance of the law is not a protection against making a mistake against it. That isn't going to get you out of it.
Sure.
So, and I think a lot of times people inadvertently breach the contracts. They don't even know that they've done it, but they've done it.
Right.
And so real estate agents have a lot of experience in dealing with lots of different scenarios. And it's not just the licensing and the club that they belong to, but it's also the experience that they've had encountering lots of different problems that you're paying them for, and it's not too dissimilar from your horticultural consulting business. When you go out there and look at a tree and you identify the problem, what are they truly paying you for? Are they just paying you for that one instance, or are they paying you because you've seen a million other trees like it?
You're paying for my last 40 to 50 years of being a arborist and a horticulturist, where I looked and I look at your tree differently than you do. Most people, I look at their tree, they don't see the holes, the sap, the problems. They may notice a tree isn't doing as well as it used to, and they're not sure why. But if you're not sure why, you need to find out. Now, I'm not just saying myself, I'm not the only one out there, but there are tree services you need to know. And it's the same thing if you have a health problem. Go see your doctor. Go try to find out what's going on if you got a problem. Don't go, well, I'm going to put my head in the sand, because it normally doesn't work out. I had a cute story the other day. A guy called me and he once talked to me about solar. And he was one of these salesmen that was going to come on real hard. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, hey, I do a radio show on AM 860, The Answer. And if you'd like to be a sponsor on AM 860, The Answer with me, you can give me a call. And I said, the 727-423-4794. I started to give him a little
Your spiel.
My spiel on how you could be a sponsor. And I said, look, I'm looking for one more good sponsor. And I kept up with that with the guy about, I said, AM 860, it's The Answer. We have news, insight, passion. I gave him all the whole good thing. And the first thing I heard was click. He hung up on me. Now, here I turned it around and I was giving him my best oomph.
Right. You were trying to out-salesman the salesman.
Oh, and I can.
Right. And but the issue there, is that ultimately, most of these guys that are calling have no authority at all to speak upon their greater.
I know.
You know,
I was having
company.
fun with him, kind of.
Right. No, I know you were, and you were having, you know, and your sadistic humor that you were having some fun at his expense. One of the things I might mention to you too, as we are getting hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter, one of the things you're going to want to do is get your AC system tuned up, and you're going to want to go see our friends at Easy Breezy AC. You can give them a call at 727-856-4822. That's 727-856-4822, and make sure that you tell them James and or Stan DeFreitas sent you.
Give you a nice discount. And so that's worthwhile doing too. So we see. Well, as Joe would say, well, there's that.
There's that.
Well, we love Joe. He's our program director and
Station manager.
Station manager. He knows everything about everything around here. And so he's always doing a great job.
Sure.
But we were talking about plants and trees. I would say summertime is tougher here for many of our plants. You know, we get rain, but we also go through a dry period sometimes. It's either feast or famine. Either we get no rain or we get, ready to start building the ark where you get too much of a good thing.
Sure.
You can always add more water.
It's coming. The rain's coming.
The rain will come. And I can assure you that if you've got an area where water settles, that's probably not the best place to plant your plant. I like to say, on a pitcher's mound. Now, it doesn't have to be quite as much as a pitcher's mound.
You mean if I'm buying a house in Safety Harbor and you come out and look at it, I shouldn't be too concerned about the low area where the water's going to hit and run into my porch?
Yeah, I told that to one of our buddies, Anthony, one time. I looked at it and I said, well, you can see the whole block there. It's all this water is going to fill into your back area. And if you get 8 or 9 inches at one day, you could have waterfront property in your back bedroom.
Well, he is 49, so the idea that he would forget that you said that will have to, at that age, things are going to happen.
Well, it does. And I'm working with that. I am trying to get him to take basil. I'm trying to get him to eat a little bit of rosemary because I am trying to counter some of his bad habits with some of these edibles. I mean, the lovely Mrs. GT is always asking me, how can you eat all these herbs? I said, because they're good for you and I need all the help I can get.
That's right. With that noise, we're going to go pay some bills, of course, but don't change that dial or however you're listening to us, and take it away for us.
If you've got plants, you've got trees, if you've got a real estate property that you need to have sold, give us a call. And stay tuned as we're here on AM 860, The Answer.
Want to talk real estate? Call James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127 or go online, aflre.com. At Dream It Real Estate, we're a different kind of real estate company. We embolden our clients to dream their biggest dreams and partner with us to make those dreams come true. Our emphasis is on team building with clients who become friends for a lifetime. For more information, please go to dreamitrealestate.co or call or text James DeFreitas at 727-254-7127. Dream It Real Estate is always encouraging our clients to dream big with us today.
Why choose Stafford Tree Service? Is it because they're experienced, have the latest equipment, and friendly professional personnel? Absolutely. Stafford's positioned themselves as a leading tree trimming company in all of Tampa Bay. With honest professionals and competitive pricing, they'll earn your trust too. In business for over 15 years, Stafford Tree Service is licensed, bonded, and insured to provide you the very best tree trimming experience. Call today, 727-546-8786, 727-546-8786. On the web at staffordtreesvc.com.
Biophilia, our innate attraction to other living things. It's why people love plants. And around Tampa Bay, Plants, that's Plantz, is bringing nature inside, in workspaces and homes by delivering beautiful foliage plants. Our plants increase oxygen and filter out pollutants, reducing stress and improving productivity. And get you in touch with your biophilic side. Go to plantz.us.
Welcome back to the Ask Mr. Greenthumb and Real Estate Show. Connect online at askmrgreenthumb.com. Got questions about gardening, real estate, or both? Give him a call at 727-254-7127. That's 727-254-7127. And now your hosts, Stan and James DeFreitas.
We're here to help you with your plants, trees, and shrubs. I had a question the other day I can run by you. A guy named Walter called me, and he said, what's the market going to do? And I said, well, I don't have a crystal ball. He wanted to know about commercial. What would be doing if he wanted to put up some buildings commercially? I said, well, that's a good question.
Well, again, I mean, one of the things that, if you follow the news, Charlie Munger, if you know who that is.
I know Charlie is.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows of him.
I don't have him on speed dial, but I know who he is.
Well, I need to call him back actually when we're done, and I'll
Warren
help
too?
him. Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, he's the call before him. But the point of it is that, then again, when they have a good idea, I usually planted the seed. But that's fine. That's another story for another day.
Well, I call Elon all the time too, but
Well, yeah, I mean, I did too. I mean, the whole idea behind PayPal and SpaceX, I mean, I helped him figure that out.
sure you're not running for president?
right. It's gonna be fantastic. But anyways, the overall thought process on commercial real estate, according to Charlie Munger, is those that don't know, he's the other half of Berkshire Hathaway, and those two have been rather successful.
And talk about a smart guy for his age or at any age.
99 years of age and sworn in again for another year term.
And he's still sharp.
He's super sharp. And it goes to show you that not everybody goes down having memory issues and stuff like that. It goes to show you that some people get a pass on that. And I'm very envious of that. And I hope that we need to study those brains. We need to figure out why some people seem to remain sharp and why some people don't. So, but anyway, that's aside, going down a rabbit hole there. And the thing I would say there in terms of your initial question, which was commercial real estate, which is that they're very concerned that the small and medium-sized banks, the amount of those banks have a lot of holdings in commercial debt. And one of the points that he was making as of late, which was that there's some problems with the amount of people that are leasing commercial spaces. Now, in certain areas and hot pockets, and I don't mean the kind you put in a microwave, it doesn't seem to have an effect. But in some areas, it really does. There are certain, I'll give you for instance, and again, for a whole host of other reasons, but in San Francisco, I read a stat the other day, 31% of commercial space is not rented right now. I mean, but that's an entirely different reason. It's not safe there. They're having safety and, they're having a lot of theft.
Is that kind of a rebound from politics?
Well, it's that in San Francisco, it seems to be tied more to the fact that, you have a lot of smash and grab robberies and you're doing it in mass. And a lot of the commercial corporate people that were occupying this space are saying, well, look, this is a loss leader for us. We're going to leave this city. So I think San Francisco will have to reimagine its policing problem. They're going to have to go back and try to reinstitute less of a defund the police thing and more of a fund the police thing. Just take the D out and you'll be good. And I think that should help.
Yeah, maybe that defunding idea doesn't really work.
Yeah, that's the other thing I would say in the commercial real estate space is nobody really anticipated that the mindset that people had for COVID, which was to stay indoors and at home, they didn't anticipate that people were going to enjoy putting on their bunny slippers and staying in their night clothes all day as they worked. Nobody really anticipated that people would enjoy it so much. And it turns out that people like clicking a button and I'm there. And now they're, doing a Zoom call and boom, they're there. And it really eliminated this idea that I had to go into the office for a lot of companies. And, and the other thing that a lot of companies didn't anticipate was they, signing these long-term leases for a building that's largely not being used. Just the cooling cost alone of some of these major buildings would make your head spin. And so, now I would think that a lot of tenants or landlord, the landlords are going to be upset because they own the buildings, but the tenants that occupied them through rent, are going to want to downsize that space because they don't need the amount of space that they used to once have.
Makes sense.
So these all play back into the overall thought process. The landlords, if they're not collecting the same amount of money because you have more vacancy in collections, which is a category that's used in terms of making sure that you calculate what your profits are going to be on leasing space, then if that goes up, then you're more at risk in terms of being able to pay your mortgage back on these commercial loans that you obtain for the buildings. And as that continues to keep going, that could be problematic for you. And, one of the things that they might want to do, and again, this is free advice, is they might want to consider subdividing the spaces again, making them even smaller, micro offices, trying to do more with the space than, make it more affordable for smaller businesses to occupy those spaces.
It makes sense. It makes sense indeed. Well, and I think maybe in Tampa Bay too, in St. Pete in particular, and maybe in Tampa, where we have such a demand for change. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and he said, look, we're going to tear down this area. We're going to put housing up above, and then we're going to have, apartments and things. But we're also going to have on the bottom floor, we're going to have retail. Right. This is downtown St. Pete.
And that's what we call a hot pocket.
And that seems to be one of the areas where you can't hardly not touch it, and people who have continually seem to be going up.
Right. And one of the interesting things, too, that, when a city starts to grow to the degree with which that area has grown, I mean, it's unrecognizable. If you took a photograph from 50 years ago and compared it to today, the city line is changed.
Well, especially for me and other people who are native St. Petersburg people, I look at it and go, I can't hardly recognize it at all because I remember the green benches and taking the buses to downtown.
You'd almost have to get in a DeLorean and go back in time in a Back to the Future scenario. It's that shocking.
I've been looking for Marty McFly, but I haven't found him yet.
Yeah, but it's that shocking. I mean, you're not the only one that have said that. I mean, it's very shocking to see how things have transformed and a metamorphosis has taken place. And it's one of those scenarios where, the consequence of having mixed use commercial is, you start to say to yourself, well, then, we're an entire, the entire area of how we're doing commerce is changed because everyone's just going to use mouse click, 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 and then Amazon shows up an hour later and here's your package.
Well, I do like that feature.
It's a nice feature, but what's interesting in some of these cities is that some of these people, because parking is such an issue, they don't. You have a lot of residents now in St. Pete that don't have cars. They just because they literally can live in the building that they're in, they can walk to where they need to go, and all of a sudden. It's weird. You have young people that are kind of having this thought process that's taking place where it's like, brick and mortar. I can just go, there's this new concept where I can actually walk to the store.
Kind of urbanization.
Yeah. But it's interesting in that regard is that, you would think that we're just totally 100% going towards the digital space for all commerce. And when the car is eliminated and everything is within walking distance of everything that you need, then there is this thought of, well, I don't exactly have to do it this way. And so, and that's one of the things that is interesting about commercial space in that regard is that you could live above the store that actually supplies you with the goods and services that you need.
Yeah, but we had a client who had a house out in the suburb, and he decided that we were selling a condo downtown St. Petersburg. He wanted to be back in St. Pete because he said, look, I love the nightlife, the bars, the action that happens that you don't get out in the suburbs. And I saw his place. He had a nice place out, I think out toward Brandon area or something. It was pretty far out. But he really enjoyed the idea of moving into the city of St. Pete because he said, look, there's all these activities that I want to be a part of. And he's a relatively young guy. And you may remember him. We sold the condo to him.
Super great guy. Yeah.
Super nice guy. Was in kind of the medical field. Won't go into that, but you could tell he was well heeled, but he really wanted to be somewhere.
Absolutely. Well, and it's hard to believe that another hour has gone by, but it has. And of course, we encourage you to stay tuned for the Dr. Bill Handelman Show. He is a breath of knowledge, and so stay tuned for that.
Remember, without trees and plants, you and I wouldn't live. Not at all. We need it for oxygen. It's important. So go out and don't wheeze, plant some trees, and enjoy your life as much as possible.
Interested in having a home consult? Remember, you can reach Stan at 727-423-4794 or on the web at AskMrGreenthumb.com.